Hello, my friends. In this one, I just want to share a little bit about the antichrist spirit and what God has shown me of this spirit and how you can see this spirit in the world. And the example that I was shown to make sense of this spirit is, let's say that I have two different people who both call themselves my friend. Let's just make one on the right and one on the left. I have a friend on the left that calls himself a friend, and I have a friend on the right that calls himself my friend. The one on the left, he says he's my friend, but I have caught him out destroying a section of my yard. I have believed, I think I saw him run over my cat and not tell me about it. People have showed me that he is trying to have an affair with my wife. I've seen all of these things about this friend who resides on my left. And I have evidence to back this up. So that's my friend on the left, but is that my friend because he says he's my friend? Now let's go to the right. Now this person on the right, he calls himself my friend. But this person on the right, he watched my kid last week whenever he couldn't go to school. He was sick. I still had to go to work. He still watched my kid for me, even though he had other things to do. That one on my right, whenever there was an accident and I couldn't get to a car and I needed somebody to just immediately take me down to the hospital, I saw him walking out in his yard and I said, "Can you help me?" And he just said, "Let's go." He put me in his car and we went down. This person who is on my right, one time I was short on rent, about $300. And he knew it because we talk. And later on in that week, I went out and I looked in my mailbox and I saw a random $300, $300 sitting in my mailbox in a letter that just said anonymous. Now, I asked him whether that was him. He never would say nothing about it. He wouldn't even talk about it. So he never told me that that's what he did, but he was really the only one who knew about this, so it has to be him. But yet, he didn't want any credit for that. So this one on my right calls himself a friend. The one on the left also calls himself my friend. But we can see a difference between what the two does to me and which one is really my friend or not, can't we? Now this one on the left who did all these wicked things to me, he still calls himself my friend, but whenever I go and pound on his door at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I really need something, is he going to let me in or is he going to pretend like he's not home? As the one that's on the right, he calls himself my friend, but he has proved that he is my friend by what he has done for me. So that one, when I go pounding on his door at 3 o'clock in the morning, is he going to let me in or pretend that he's not home? Of course, that one's going to let me in, isn't he? This world, especially one where the Antichrist spirit has taken over, this world acts like my friend from the left. So, people like this, for instance, like Michael Moore, he will tell you that he cares about you and he's compassionate and he wants to see equality and he loves us. He will tell us all these things. But then what does he actually do? At bare minimum, you could say that by the things that he says, that he incites and provokes violence against other people. Because he's not trying to say anything good about anybody in all actuality. All he's doing is stirring up violence by what he says. Because he is not saying, well, the policy that Trump came out with about those veterans out there, his policy, I think, is going to put us in trouble because we might get into a conflict somewhere down the road with Russia. So I think Trump is in trouble with this policy. That's not what he says. What he says is Trump is like Osama bin Laden. He's a mass killer. Without any proof, of granted without any proof, he will call somebody a mass killer. And who does he call that mass killer? Well, Donald Trump, of course, because Trump is the Messiah to the world. They blame everything on him. They use him as a scapegoat. So everybody of this antichrist spirit, you will see them all blame Trump, not because of policy, because the policy, I've gotten into a lot of conversations with people that proclaim to be liberals. I've gotten into a lot of conversations with them to try and ask them about specific policies, but they won't talk about it. The only thing they will talk about is how wicked and evil Trump is, how he kills everybody, how he's this, how he's that. They won't debate you based off of a policy. They will only attack you based off the person. So the Antichrist spirit is weak. It has no power. It has no authority, because the only thing it knows is how to lie, how to murder, and how to steal, because that's the only thing it's known since the beginning. So when you ask somebody who's wicked to prove their point to you, give me some evidence, they can't, because their father, the devil, couldn't give God any evidence either about Abel. When you ask these people, why can't you just talk about somebody? Oh, you're just a racist, you don't know, blah, blah, blah. They attack you personally. Well, why do they attack somebody personally? Because they can't stand firm on truth, because they don't even have any of it. And they don't even have anything that makes sense. If they try to debate something of policy, they don't even talk about things that make sense, let alone have truth, because a good lie can get sold to a lot of people. But they can't even make a good lie. These ones who are the Antichrist spirit, they attack people personally and cite violence towards somebody personally, because they do not have the truth to prove anything else they say about them. So about Michael Moore, and the least, I could say that the very least he's doing is causing a bunch of people to want to commit violence against Trump and those who follow him, because without any evidence at all, he stands out and makes a claim of somebody that he's a murderer. So at minimum, I could say this about my friend on the left, that he's very literally trying to provoke people into murdering me. At the very minimum, I could say that. As this is what the left in this generation actually does. That's why it is called the left, because it is Satan's. You think these things don't matter? You think they're just words? No. To human beings, we can't fathom that unless we know the Spirit of God. And then the Spirit of God shows us how obvious it is within the world. So this Michael Moore is like my friend on the left. This Cher. Trump is a mass murderer. Cher, I'm talking about the famous Sonny and Cher, and big time back in her day and still in the music industry. Cher. Trump is a mass murderer. The punishment is death. So she's saying essentially the same thing that my friend on the left, Michael Moore, was saying, was, I can't give you proof of any reason why you should hate this man, but just do it anyway because he's trying to kill you, without any evidence of that. Because Trump is also her Messiah, just like it is Michael Moore's Messiah, just like it is most all of Hollywood, just like it is all of the Democrats. The list goes on and on and on of people who you will see not debate you by what somebody does, because they don't even know how to judge what somebody does. They will simply debate on my superiority to that person and that they're bad and I'm good. That's all they can debate you on. So you can compare Cher and Michael Moore, who is of the Antichrist spirit, because they go against God in his spirit of kindness and goodness. They go against that, and then they condemn Trump, who is their Messiah, because they feel once the Messiah is put to death, they will all of a sudden feel so much better about themselves that they've done such a good thing for the world. is Trump is like my friend on the right. You know that after Congress could not come up with a second stimulus package about this coronavirus thing, after they couldn't come up with any financial package, do you know that Trump signed an executive order to give everybody an additional $400 per bi-weekly unemployment paycheck? He managed to keep that on there by an executive order using emergency funds from his own department so that people didn't go back down to no additional money coming out of unemployment. People have a lot of bills that unemployment can't all pay. But can an extra $800 a month help? Of course. So whenever they're calling Trump a murderer, I look at my friend on the right and I say, he has helped me with about an additional $900 a month on average that I would have never had without him. Back in 2008, whenever I didn't have a job and everything crashed and the markets and all of that, did Obama write me a check? Well, he wrote the people that I owed checks, but he didn't write me nothing. Trump very literally, with the stroke of his pen, gave everybody who was not working in the United States an additional $400 per biweekly in their unemployment. And no, this is not some kind of a policy government video here. I'm showing the difference between what somebody who is your friend does for you versus what somebody who is not your friend does for you. I have a buddy, still have a friend, who was in the Army. And he had his hand blown off by a landmine. And he got, of course, honorably discharged, and he comes home, and they're taking care of all of his hospital medical fees and everything that he had to go through with his operations and all that. And as soon as he had the operation, it was it. He couldn't even see a doctor again. It took him 9 months to even talk to a doctor over the phone from the VA. And then whenever he talked to a doctor over the phone from the VA, it was supposed to be another year until he got an appointment. Whenever Trump came into office, and he promised before he came into office that he was going to fix the VA, what has happened to the VA since he did? Whenever my friend has something going on with his hand or something else related from his injuries, he now goes right down to the emergency room and the doctor sees him on the spot just as though he was anybody else, but he also gets the benefit of belonging to the VA, so he doesn't have to worry about all the bills. So what did Trump do for my personal friend? Clearly he helped him by his works. So you see how everyone on the left, they will say racist, murderer, misogynist, blah, 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 blah. But they don't actually do anything to help you. All they do is try to turn more people against you. What did the Pharisees do in the time of Jesus? The only thing they could do was call Jesus out for the things that he did, saying that they were bad and they were of Satan, but they themselves couldn't help anybody, and they couldn't prove what they were saying. That is the spirit of antichrist. It cannot prove, it does not have the works to show itself to be true because it doesn't have any truth. So instead of telling somebody what the truth actually is, like my friend on the right will, they just attack that person. The spirit of antichrist will never be positive. It will never say anything of hope. Whitmer again claims protesters with automatic rifles came to her house. Protesters cited for trespassing after this. People taking to the streets marching for justice are everyday heroes. They always make claims of destruction and violence. So for instance, you'll see the right and the left politicians. This is how easy it is to see this antichrist spirit in your own life. One side will say, we're going to do something and do it better. We're going to make it happen, and this is how we're going to make it happen. I realize we've had some failures, but this is what we're going to do to bring it back and restore it and make it better. While the other side will say, well, no, everything is wrong. The whole thing's wrong. Let's tear all of it down. Let's start over new. And you'll pay for it the whole while we tear it down and build it back up. One side, the friend on your right, when you go knocking on his door at 3 o'clock in the morning, you have hope that he's going to answer it. As the other side, the left, when you go knocking on his door at 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't have any hope that he's going to answer it because he has not given you any hope by what he has done for you in his life. The Spirit of God will give you hope. It will give you assurance. It will help you when you are in need. When you are down, it will give you a way out of it. It gives you hope in something better for the future. As the spirit of Antichrist will do nothing but declare misery. It's always been miserable. It is now miserable, and it will continue to be miserable as long as we don't remove everybody who is God away from these places of authority. That's all they have. Have you ever noticed the difference between somebody who usually you would say is a conservative versus somebody who's a flat-out liberal that they call themselves? You ever notice the difference between these two people? One of them is constantly miserable, aren't they? And the other one generally is worried about their family, or they're hopeful that things are going to be better for their kid than it was for them. There's always hope in the Spirit of God. There is no hope in the spirit of Antichrist. By what these people say, once you understand the spirit of Antichrist and who it is, whether the person talking is your friend or not by their works, once you recognize that, then you can pick out the details of this spirit. Satan must tell mankind what is coming to them. He must tell them what he is planning to do to them. It must be out in the open. But it must be proclaimed through people who are his image, like this Michael Moore, like Cher, like our friend on the left. And he must proclaim it in hypocrisy, because that is what the spirit of Satan is. It is hypocrisy, as Jesus mentions this. The spirit of the Pharisees is hypocrisy. The spirit of the Antichrist is hypocrisy. They will all who are of the spirit Antichrist blame Donald Trump for everything, without any evidence, without any proof, causing nothing but strife and conflict by doing this. And they'll tell you by what they say next what the spirit of Antichrist is planning to do next. He is a mass murderer. The Antichrist spirit, that spirit of Satan, can't wait to go on his killing streak. And he knows it's almost here, so he's so excited he has these mouthpieces go out there and proclaim it for him because he can't say it. Cher, the same thing. Trump is a mass murderer. The punishment is death. They are planning the assassination of Trump, for one. And then two, they are planning on mass murdering everybody else who followed him or anybody who remains in the world as a Christian or as a Jew. Satan is flat out telling you by the spirit of Antichrist what is coming next. Because he has to. Satan has to tell you the truth. But he must blame it on somebody else other than him, which means he must blame it on the Spirit of Christ. These people do not lie about what they say. There is a mass murderer coming. There is a death coming. But they have to blame it on God, because the spirit is a spirit of hypocrisy. Do what we say, not do what we do. If you ever want to see the spirit of Antichrist, go and look for a hypocrite. In everything they do, everything a hypocrite does, you will see the Antichrist spirit. One interesting comment that Trump did make was he was talking about, we have weapons that the world has never seen before, and he's very confident about the Space Force and that kind of stuff. There is an imminent war coming against China, because China has been involved with the attempted overthrow of the American government. They brought about the virus in order to get rid of Trump from office. And it's all been planned. Democrats, China, the media, everybody is either complacent on this or a part of it. even some Republicans. Trump knows what's going to happen because he knows the information that he is sitting on. And he knows what he's going to do with it. And he knows as soon as he acts that there is immediately going to be that great red dragon of Revelation 12 stand up. And it's going to try its best to destroy America at that time. But just like Trump says, who is your friend by his works, we have something the world has never seen before to be unleashed. He's warning China with what he is saying about the U.S. military weapons. He's warning China. And this will be quick and decisive, the same as it will be whenever all of the subpoenas start handing out to bring justice to the criminals within the American government. The war against that great dragon in the world is going to be the United States against China. And the United States will be immediately victorious. But there's more to Revelation 12 than just that, isn't there? As it breaks out on the heaven and Satan gets thrown down, the war is also going to break out on earth. It's going to be between that great red dragon and the woman in the wilderness, the United States of America. And then after this decisive beginning to this war, where America overwhelms China, it's all written throughout Daniel. The book of Daniel speaks all about this war. Then, because of the systems that the United States uses to begin that war, there's going to be a peace implemented in the whole world. This is the false peace. But this is the 1260-day period where Earth begins to completely change. The political parties and systems begin to completely change. All of this, when you see it begin, you're going to see it begin very soon. Know where you heard it from, and know who has been your friend over all of the other ones who keep telling you they're friend. Remember who the one was who told you the truth. After all of these indictments start coming out in America, and you see one political party completely explode, when you see the media explode, when you see a war begin with China, truly know that your salvation and the kingdom of God and the authority is Messiah. Truly understand that your redemption is right there at the door. It's right there. Stand firm with the one who has loved you by his works. And do not fall for the spirit of the antichrist, no matter what any one of these hypocrites has to say about it. There is a reward at the end of this tunnel, and that reward is never tasting death. And for all of those who will stand firm until the very, very end, that will be our reward. When you see these things happen, my friends, remember who your friends were that told you about it ahead of time. And remember who your friends were who lied to you about all of this ahead of time. God bless.